Hey everyone, ever wondered why most businesses don't survive their first 3 years? Well, I'm here to tell you that it doesn't have to be like that if you understand the following. Number one, there are no shortcuts to success. Number two, there is no such thing as luck. And number three, cash is king. And make sure you hang around for the entire video, and I'm going to show you the 7 rules that I apply in my business to make sure that you don't go broke, okay? So in this video, I want to share the strategies that I've been applying in my business for almost 30 years and things that have worked for me very well. Now, my name is Richard Gerritsen Cornell, and I'm a business coach and mentor to startups, SMEs and corporate organizations. And I've been in business since 1996, so it's a fair while. And I'm also the founder and owner of an award-winning digital marketing agency here in Sydney, Australia, operating for 27 years. Now, there is nothing more exciting than starting a business. I'll never forget the first day that I decided to start my first business. You know, it was a feeling of elation and complete freedom. I already felt rich, but nothing could have prepared me for what I was about to experience. I was 21 at the time, and I thought it would be easy. I had confidence in myself, I was able to communicate my message effectively, I was good at my craft. What could possibly go wrong? You know, it just had to work. So when I left my job, I was one of the youngest art directors in Sydney's advertising scene, and I was getting poached by various agencies to go and work for them, and the payoffs were amazing, but I knew that I wanted to be in charge of my own destiny, and so my journey began. Now, I remember writing down a list of all the things that I needed to start my first business and how to get clients. Now, this was back in the mid-1990s when in Australia we didn't have the internet or email, let alone social media or even Google for that matter. So to me, it just sounded so simple. All I needed to do was find a list of potential clients I could call, organize some meetings, quote some jobs, do the work, get paid, and then do it over and over again, right? Man, but I got such a massive wake-up call from day one. I wasn't prepared for it. And after a few weeks of getting all my ducks in a row, it was now time for me to start getting on the phone and start organizing meetings to present my new business. Now, I was so motivated and I was going to set the world on fire. But very quickly, I faced so many challenges that I simply just didn't see coming, you know? Which brings me to my first few business lessons. Lesson number one, there are no shortcuts to success. Now, the first thing that comes to mind is that I didn't understand the meaning of conversion rates and the decision-making process timeframes. This means that if I was to call 100 businesses, I would simply call 100 people and I would get 50 new clients, right? And before you know it, I would have a thriving business. But the reality was, after calling 100 people, I saw that out of that 100, only 10 were somewhat interested, and then out of that 10, I secured only 1 client. Now, I was good on the phone, I presented well in person, they could see that I was very passionate about my work, and I knew my work spoke for itself. So why was I only landing 1 new client for every 100 people that I was calling? What was I doing wrong? But what was even more frustrating was when I landed that new client, I just expected that the money would start rolling in straight away. I didn't factor in that the new client needed time to prepare briefs. You know, I needed to negotiate terms. I then needed to do the work and then wait for the client to make edits and then get approval and so on. Now, all this could take weeks or even months. Then the final hurdle was waiting to get paid, which could take approximately 30 days from when I sent them the invoice, sometimes more. So from making my first call to getting paid, it was about 3 months, and I quickly realized that wasn't sustainable. I also started to get really down on myself, and it was daunting and yet humbling at the same time. Now, as a wise man once told me, just because I'm ready doesn't mean the rest of the world is ready. And here is where I started to just adjust my approach a little, you know. I started to be laser focused on who I wanted to work with. Let's call it finding my niche, right? Which meant that if I wanted to land more clients, I could still call 100 people, but now I needed to spend more time doing research prior to making those calls. I also knew that I needed to spend the majority of my time during the day to focus purely on sales by making calls and having meetings, and then I could do the work at night. Now, mind you, this was well and truly before virtual meetings or Zoom, so I needed to spend more time traveling in the car to meetings. This also meant that I needed more money for petrol, which ate into my costs. Now, soon I realized very quickly that I needed to focus on who I wanted to work with and how much it would cost me to get that new client, which brings me to lesson number 2. There is no such thing as luck. Now, over the years, I've had people say to me, oh, you're lucky you're in business, you know, you're so lucky you get to do what you want when you want. They don't understand how much this frustrates me. So people have no idea what it takes to run a business. They think that because I have my own business, I have no worries, it just takes care of itself, and I'm free to do whatever I want, whenever I want. They don't understand the sacrifice it takes and the stress it has on me and my family that support me. They don't see the nights that I would lay awake wondering, how was I going to pay my bills? How I needed more clients. I was emotionally and physically drained, and then the list goes on. And while I remember this, look out for my next video, as this is going to give you an insight into what a business owner goes through on a daily basis. So stay tuned to my channel because it's coming. Now, as I got more experience, I did learn to say to them, there's absolutely no such thing as luck. Luck is ridiculous. I don't believe in it. I'm responsible for getting my clients. I'm the one doing all the worrying. I'm the one nurturing and staying in regular contact with my clients. I pay my own bills, and the money in my account, it doesn't just appear from the money fairies. Everything I did and still do today, it creates opportunities for my business. And I soon realized that the more opportunities that I created for myself, the more opportunities I had to make more money. It's a cycle that needs to work in unison, from creating opportunities, which is your sales calls or inquiries, quoting, feeding my pipeline with potential jobs, doing the work so I can then invoice. Now, I knew that if I did these correctly, then I would succeed, or at least that's what I thought, Which brings me to lesson number 3. This is a really important one, and probably the most important one. Cash is king. You may have heard how many businesses fail in their first few years of operation. Well, the statistics in Australia is that 60% of businesses fail within their first 3 years, and out of that, 20% will fail in their first 12 months. Now, this is such a high percentage. And it's a wonder why so many people go into business when the laws of averages, they're simply stacked against them. So what are some reasons why businesses go under? Did they lose too many clients? They weren't capable of handling their operations. They didn't understand how to prioritize their time. The market shifted against them. I could go on and on about this for absolute ever, but the number one reason why businesses fail is simply because they run out of money and they can't afford to pay their bills. It's as simple as that. They spent more than they made and they couldn't get themselves out of that hole. And when you run out of money, it's almost impossible to come back from this. And even though, the business might still be a good business, it's viable in the sense that they have good teams, they produce good work. If you can't fund your daily operations, I should have said, you just can't go on. Now, I knew I didn't want this to happen to me, so I was very careful to keep a very close eye on my income and expenses, and it's something that I still do today. Now, here are the 7 rules that you need to apply in your business to not go broke. And if you apply these properly, you will have every opportunity to make your business a success. So let's start with rule number 1. Make your sales the number 1 priority. Unless you have a steady flow of inquiries to your business, you will simply die a slow death, okay? And it surprises me even today how many businesses don't spend the majority of their time trying to find new clients. It doesn't matter what you're selling. If you don't have people who are willing to spend their money with you, then you won't make it. It's as simple as that. Now, let's look at this analogy because I love cars. So let's use a motor. If you take a combustion engine in a car and you have the motor, which is the driving power to make it move, but in order to make the motor produce power, it needs fuel. So what happens if you stop the flow of the fuel to the motor? Well, the motor stops running. And even though there's nothing wrong with the motor, it would just stop, right? And the same rule applies to your business. The motor is the machine of the business. All the moving parts of the motor are the same as the moving parts in the business. It doesn't matter how strong or fast the motor is. If you cut that fuel supply, then the motor stops moving. So if your inquiries stop flowing, which is the fuel to the business, then the business fails. It's as simple as that. And this is why you need to constantly seek opportunities to provide your business with the fuel that it needs. And I do this daily. It's ingrained in every aspect of my daily operations. And you need to be super focused on having a steady flow of leads, because going back to my opening statements when I mentioned the consideration phase or the decision-making phase, from securing new customers, it's so important that you have, new leads coming through each day. Otherwise, you'll see gaps in that funnel, and this will cause tremendous pain for you and your business, which brings me to rule number 2. Don't spend more than you make. Simple as that. I live by this rule even today, and it's this way of thinking that has kept me in business for 30 years. Now, if you have enough money to pay your bills, the chances are you won't go broke. And I can assure you the majority of the stress that you will face is when you do not know how to pay your expenses. It'll consume everything in you and it's just not healthy. And by having enough money, it'll also give you the ability to grow your business. You just don't want to have enough money to get by. You need cash flow for your business. So to put on staff, buy new equipment, buy stock, invest in bigger facilities, the list goes on, right? you don't just want to have enough to pay your weekly expenses. You'll need to add a buffer zone of funds as a percentage of your profit, which will enable you to grow. Now, by implementing a yearly budget is the way I stay ahead. I've done it for years. I know where all my expenses and income are allocated to. And in my budget, I work out how much my expenses will be over a 12-month period. I then work out how much money I can make with my current operations, and most importantly, the income streams that will be able to effectively achieve my sales targets. Now, I know from years of doing that if I stick to my budget, it reduces the amount of worry that I go through. And it really baffles me how many people just aren't aware of their own expenses, or let alone their income, where it's coming from. Now, I'm going to make a video on this, a more in-depth video on this, so be sure to subscribe to my channel so you'll be the first to see when it goes live. Which brings me to rule number 3. Stay organized and tackle the most important tasks first. I see this happen a lot, where business owners get bogged down in menial tasks first thing in the morning, in their routine. They get to the office, they check their emails, they respond to everything, and no matter how long this takes, before they know it, the day is running out of time and they've failed to complete the most important tasks which can better their business. So keep a calendar and block out time slots each day. Ensure to do the most important tasks first at the very least, and then after that, complete the tasks which may not be as important. And I constantly tell my staff to do the same. I'm not saying they shouldn't read their emails, but they're very aware of their time and what they need to do to make money for the business. Rule number 4, stick to your strengths, delegate the rest, okay? It's so important to focus on your strengths in your business. Now, I know in the infancy stages of any business, you'll not only be the boss, you'll also be the cleaner, the marketer, the sales guy, you'll be doing absolutely everything, and you'll be the one probably producing the work. Now, every business owner goes through this in the early stages, but it's important to identify what you're good at and what you can delegate to others to make your job, who can do a better job than what you can. And for example, if you're great at sales, then you should be the one who is responsible for getting the work in, right? And then you'll find it probably easier to find someone to do the work at a cheaper rate than what your time is worth. Now, this is the foundation for growth in any business, and you can apply this rule right across the various aspects of your business. So stick to your strengths, and when you delegate, you should not get bogged down with their roles. Just focus on what you're doing, what the most important thing is for you to grow. Which brings me to rule number 5. You need to be consistent and regimented with your routine. Now, I swear that if I was to record every step that I make from the moment I wake up in the morning to the moment I go to sleep each night, it'd be identical to the previous day. Now, I've often been told that I'm too particular or something like that, but truth be told, I'm just hyper organized. And here's what I do that you can decide if I'm crazy or not, right? I get up at exactly the same time each day. I eat the same breakfast, same time, and I love it. I go to work at the same time every day. I follow the same rules with my email. I prepare my day the afternoon before so I don't waste time during the day. And my calendar then tells me exactly what I need to do. And I also go home at the same time, bed at the same time. Now, I've always followed this structure and it makes me far more productive. It also enables me to spend more quality time with my family, which is really important. Now, I'm not saying that distractions won't happen or appear in my day. They always do, but I do have allowances for that in my schedule to account for those incidentals. And all I need to do is then shuffle a few different things around to accommodate them. So it's also very important not to put off what you can do today. If you see a window of opportunity to do something that will make a difference for tomorrow and you have the time to do it, then do it. Don't tell yourself that you'll do it tomorrow, because mate, we all know tomorrow never comes. So making the most out of your day is absolutely crucial in business. So don't waste time, and you want to be as productive as you can possibly be. It'll benefit you, and it will also benefit the people around you as well. So make every minute count. It's so important. Now, rule number 6, be innovative and keep trying new things to better your business. Constantly evaluate your competitors. It's so important to see if you can find things that they do that you can incorporate into your business. Now, there's nothing wrong with copying their strengths of your competitors, because the hard work's already been done by them. And it's also good for you to identify what you see works well for them and what you can copy into your business. Now, another very important thing to remember is to keep trying various forms of advertising and marketing until you find the best performing channels that provide you with the best opportunities for your sales. And then once you've done it, rinse and repeat it over and over. So staying innovative, whether it's in your advertising and marketing or even in your operations and systems, you need to constantly evolve, and you need money and time to do it. You just never know what will work best until you try it. So finding what works best for you is going to be one of the most important things. But rule number 7, this is the most important rule by far. Don't ever give up. Be absolutely relentless. As I said, it's so important. Just remember that everything I have already mentioned won't mean anything if you stop and give up. You need to dig deep each and every day. Even when you feel like you've got nothing left to give, we have an inner strength that we don't even know how much we can handle until after the fact. So trust me, you just can't stop. Our natural one instinct is to survive, to keep going. So you will get better at dealing with challenges the more times you do it. So just do it. Now, business isn't for everyone, we know that, right? And you can get a glimpse of how much it can consume your life, but the journey is so amazing, and despite all the challenges, stresses, frustrations, it's so rewarding when you see results. And if you follow these rules, I guarantee you years of success in your business life. That wraps it up, and I'd love to thank you all for watching, and I'd love to know your thoughts. I'd love to see in the comments below what works well for your business, what are your rules that you live and die by, and please subscribe if you'd like to see more videos. My channel is still new, I'm working on a lot of videos at the moment, and I can't wait to give you more content. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Cheers.